I stood in the conference room, heart pounding like a drum against my ribs. Daniel Shaw, our chief operating officer and my direct boss, cleared his throat importantly. Everyone leaned forward. We all knew what this meeting was about, announcing the new director of strategy position. My position. At least, it should have been. I'd spent 12 years at this company, building strategies that saved millions. My presentations won clients Daniel couldn't even schedule meetings with. Everyone knew I was the brain behind his success. Daniel's eyes swept the room, lingering on me for just a second. Then he smiled, that sharp, cruel smile I'd learned to hate. The new director of strategy will be my cousin, Tiffany. Applause erupted. Forced, awkward applause. My world tilted sideways. Tiffany? She'd been my intern 6 months ago. She could barely use Excel without calling me for help. Daniel leaned close, his breath hot against my ear. Arden, you'll never be leadership material. The words sliced through me like glass. I forced my face into a smile, blinking back burning tears. But under the table, my hand found my phone. I pressed record. 12 years. 12 years of giving everything to this company. Late nights when everyone else went home. Weekends spent fixing Daniel's disasters. Holidays sacrificed to save contracts he'd nearly destroyed with his incompetence. Every big win? Daniel took full credit, standing in boardrooms acting like a genius while I sat silent in the back. Every mistake he made? Somehow became my fault. Arden should have caught that, he'd say, shaking his head sadly while I burned with humiliation. I remembered my first day here, fresh out of college, eyes bright with ambition. I'd believed hard work mattered. That talent would be recognized. That playing by the rules meant eventually winning. How naive I'd been. But this moment, this public humiliation in front of my colleagues, broke something fundamental inside me. Not my spirit exactly. Something else. My willingness to stay silent. My acceptance of injustice. My fear of fighting back. That night, lying awake staring at my ceiling, I made myself a promise. Daniel Shaw would regret ever underestimating me. He thought I was weak, invisible, disposable. He was about to learn exactly how wrong he was. The next morning, I went straight to HR. My hands shook as I pushed open the door. Linda, the HR director, looked up from her computer. Arden? Everything okay? I sat down carefully, like sudden movements might shatter my courage. I need to understand something. The director of strategy position was I considered. Linda's expression shifted. Sympathy mixed with something else. Guilt, maybe. She glanced at her closed door, then spoke quietly. You were recommended by the outgoing CEO. Strongly recommended, actually. My breath caught. Then why Daniel overrode the decision? She looked genuinely apologetic. He said loyalty beats merit. That family comes first. Family. Of course. Everything clicked into place. Daniel had been systematically blocking my advancement for years, pushing his own people into positions they didn't deserve. Linda leaned forward. Between us? There's another name that keeps appearing in Daniel's promotions. Jessa Hale. Ever heard of her? I had. Jessa worked in marketing, though nobody could explain what she actually did. She attended meetings, looked elegant, and somehow kept getting raises. She's Daniel's friend, Linda said carefully. The way she said friend told me everything. I left HR with my suspicions confirmed. This wasn't just nepotism. It was corruption. I started documenting everything. Every email Daniel sent taking credit for my work. Every meeting where he presented my strategies as his own. Every decision that favored family or friends over qualified employees. I created a folder on my personal laptop titled Evidence. It grew daily. My coworker Marcus noticed the change in me. You're different, he said at lunch. Quieter. But also, scarier somehow. I smiled. Just focused. He shook his head. Daniel, better watch out. You've got that look. What look? The look of someone who'd finally stopped being afraid. The look of someone collecting ammunition for a war they hadn't declared yet. The look of someone who knew the truth and refused to hide it anymore. Rumors started flooding the company. Whispers in hallways, excited chatter at the coffee machine. A new CEO was coming. Someone powerful from outside. Someone with a reputation for demanding excellence and transparency. Someone who fired executives for incompetence. I watched Daniel's face tighten every time the rumors came up. He started working longer hours, holding more closed-door meetings. His confident swagger became nervous energy. Good. Let him panic. Let him feel what I'd felt. Daniel made his move swiftly. He called me into his office Friday afternoon. "We're restructuring your responsibilities," he said, not meeting my eyes. "You'll be supporting Tiffany now. Transitioning your projects to her." Supporting Tiffany. My former intern. My stomach twisted, but I kept my voice steady. "What will my new title be?" He waved dismissively. "Project coordinator." It's a lateral move, really. Lateral. I'd just been demoted from senior strategist to coordinator, and he called it lateral. Over the weekend, I discovered something worse. Daniel had erased my name from a multi-million-dollar project deck. Months of my work, research, strategy, all credited to him and Tiffany now. The presentation was scheduled for Monday, with our biggest client. Monday morning, I found my system access had been changed. Certain files were locked. My security clearance downgraded. Daniel was trying to erase me systematically. Make me so small I'd either quit or become truly invisible. But he'd made one critical mistake. I'd been backing up everything to an off-site cloud storage for weeks. Every file, every version, every email. He could lock me out of the company system, but he couldn't lock me out of my own evidence vault. Tuesday, I was called to HR again. This time, Linda looked uncomfortable. "Arden, a complaint has been filed against you." My heart stopped. What kind of complaint? She slid a paper across her desk. Uncooperative behavior. Aggressive attitude toward leadership. Refusal to accept organizational changes. Daniel's words were all over it. His petty, vindictive, scared words. They were threatening a performance review. Possible termination if I didn't adjust my attitude. I felt rage bubble up, hot and dangerous. But I forced it down, let ice take its place. "I'll bring evidence to any review," I said calmly. Linda blinked. Evidence? Yes. Documentation of my actual performance. My contributions. My behavior. All of it. Her expression shifted slightly. Was that nervousness? "That won't be necessary if you just, I insist," I interrupted quietly. "Transparency benefits everyone, right?" She nodded slowly, suddenly looking worried. "Good. Let HR worry too. Let them realize they'd been complicit in Daniel's games." I left that office with my head high, even though my hands trembled. That evening, I contacted an employment attorney. She listened to one 5-minute recording from that conference room. Then she smiled coldly. "Oh, he's done. Keep collecting evidence." The major partner presentation arrived, the one I'd built from scratch. I watched Tiffany stand at the front of the boardroom, clicking through my slides. Our client, Mr. Brennan, listened patiently. Then he started asking questions. Specific, technical questions about market analysis and strategic frameworks. Tiffany froze. Her face went pale. She stammered, well, the data suggests. But couldn't finish. Mr. Brennan frowned. "I'm confused. This strategy is brilliant, but you can't explain the fundamentals." Daniel jumped in quickly. "Tiffany's still learning the presenting side. Who actually created this?" Mr. Brennan interrupted, looking around the room. Silence. Heavy, terrible silence. I stood up slowly. Every eye turned to me. "I did, sir." Daniel's jaw clenched visibly. Mr. Brennan studied me. "You're Arden Cole?" I nodded. "The one whose name appears in the footnotes of every document we've received for 3 years?" My breath caught. He'd noticed. All this time, I'd been leaving tiny traces, footnotes, file names, metadata. And he'd noticed. "Yes, sir." He looked at Daniel coldly. "I want Arden leading this pitch. The whole thing. Now." Daniel looked like he'd swallowed poison, but he couldn't refuse. Not in front of our biggest client. I led the entire presentation. No notes needed. This was my work, my vision, my strategy. I explained the market gaps we'd identified, the competitive advantages we'd built, the projected revenue growth over 5 years. Mr. Brennan asked challenging questions. I answered every single one. When I finished, the room was silent. Then Mr. Brennan stood and started clapping. His team joined him. Even our own people applauded, though Daniel sat frozen, his forced smile cracking at the edges. That, Mr. Brennan said, is exactly what we needed. You've got the deal. We'd won the biggest contract of the year. A standing ovation in the boardroom. Handshakes and congratulations. I should have felt triumphant. Instead, I felt exhausted, drained from years of fighting for scraps of recognition. That afternoon, an email appeared in my inbox. Subject: disciplinary warning. My hands shook as I read Daniel's words: insubordination, going above assigned authority, undermining designated leadership. He was punishing me for succeeding, for saving his presentation, for doing my job. This wasn't incompetence anymore. This was sabotage. Active, intentional sabotage designed to force me out before the new CEO arrived and discovered the truth. My attorney reviewed the disciplinary email. She shook her head, almost laughing. He's building your case for you. This is retaliation, clear as day. She handed me a leather notebook. Document everything from here on. Dates, times, witnesses, feelings. Everything. I labeled the notebook carefully. The Fall of Daniel Shaw. Dramatic? Maybe, but it felt right. Like naming a hurricane before it hits. That week, the company prepared for the new CEO's arrival. Offices were cleaned, reports were polished, everyone dressed a little sharper. I expected an older executive. Gray hair, stern face, decades of experience. Instead, a striking man in his mid-30s entered headquarters with a security detail. He wore a perfectly tailored navy suit, moved with absolute confidence, and had eyes that missed nothing. Lucas Hayes. I recognized him from business magazines. Billionaire strategist. Corporate turnaround specialist. Known for walking into failing companies and cutting out the rot without mercy. When he shook Daniel's hand, he didn't smile. Just studied him with those cold, calculating eyes. Daniel laughed nervously, trying to fill the silence. Lucas said nothing, just moved on to the next person. I hung back, observing. Invisible as always. But I noticed Lucas pause while reviewing a document, his fingers stopping on something. His eyes lifted, scanning the room until they found me. The all-staff meeting felt like a tribunal. Lucas stood at the front, hands behind his back, addressing 200 employees. I'm here to evaluate performance, he said bluntly. Real performance, not politics. Not friendships. Not family connections. Daniel shifted uncomfortably in his front row seat. Lucas pulled up a presentation, projects from the past 3 years. These strategies generated $70 million in new revenue. He paused. According to reports, they were led by COO Daniel Shaw. Daniel nodded, trying to look modest. Lucas's eyes narrowed. Except every file shows primary authorship by someone else. The room went dead silent. Lucas clicked to the next slide. My name, Arden Cole. Listed on project after project. Strategy documents. Analysis reports. Client presentations. All bearing my digital fingerprints. Who is Arden Cole? Lucas asked quietly. Daniel stuttered. She's admin support. Helps format documents. Lucas stared at him. Admin support? He clicked again. Screenshots of my credentials appeared. MBA from a top university. 12 years of strategic analysis experience. Industry certifications Daniel didn't have. This is admin support? Lucas repeated. Daniel's face drained of color. I meant, she assists with strategy under my guidance. Stop lying. Lucas's voice cut like a blade. The entire room flinched. He looked directly at me. Arden Cole, my office. 1 hour. I stood outside Lucas's top-floor office, palms sweating. His assistant, a efficient woman named Claire, gestured me in. The office was enormous, floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city, minimalist furniture, walls covered in strategic frameworks and financial charts. Lucas sat behind his desk reading a file. He didn't look up. Sit. I sat. He continued reading for another minute. The silence stretched, nerve-wracking. Finally, he closed the file and looked at me. Really looked at me. like he was reading code written on my face. "Tell me everything," he said. I hesitated. Retaliation flashed through my mind. Daniel's connections. His threats. The disciplinary warnings. Lucas leaned forward slightly. "I don't tolerate corruption. I don't tolerate incompetence. And I especially don't tolerate people who steal credit from those who actually do the work." His intensity was almost overwhelming. "Help me clean this up," he said quietly. "Tell me the truth, and I'll protect you. I promise." For the first time in 12 years, sitting in that office with this stranger who somehow saw me, I felt something dangerous. Hope. Real, terrifying hope that maybe, just maybe, justice was possible. I talked for 2 hours. Lucas listened without interrupting, occasionally taking notes. I explained the pattern of credit theft, the blocked promotions, the nepotism with Tiffany and favoritism toward Jessa Hale, the disciplinary warnings designed to push me out. When I finished, Lucas sat back. "Do you have evidence?" My heart hammered. This was the moment. "Yes." His eyebrows lifted slightly. "How much?" "Everything. Emails, recordings, file histories, meeting notes, witness statements. 12 years of documentation." For the first time, Lucas smiled. Not a warm smile. Something colder, sharper, predatory. "Send it all to my secure server. Tonight." He scribbled an email address on his business card. I took the card with shaking hands. He studied me again, that intense gaze. "You're scared." It wasn't a question. "Yes," I admitted. "Good. Fear means you're smart. But don't let it paralyze you. We're going to fix this." Like we were partners. Like I wasn't alone anymore. Walking back to my desk, I felt lighter and heavier at the same time. I'd just declared war on my boss. There was no going back now. I returned to my desk to find Tiffany crying at her workstation. Daniel stood beside her, one hand on her shoulder, murmuring comfort. When they saw me, both their expressions changed. Daniel's eyes went hard. "This is your fault," he hissed quietly. "Trying to climb over family won't save you." His voice shook slightly. That tiny tremor, that was fear. He was scared. Actually scared. And I realized something dark and satisfying. I wanted him scared. I wanted him to feel every bit of panic I'd felt for 12 years. Tiffany glared at me through tears. "Why are you doing this? I never did anything to you." She genuinely believed that. She genuinely thought accepting a stolen promotion was innocent. That benefiting from corruption made her a victim when consequences arrived. I didn't respond. Just packed my laptop and left for the day. That night, I uploaded everything to Lucas's server. Every email. Every recording. Every timeline. Every document showing financial irregularities, favoritism cases, false performance reviews. The upload took 3 hours. When it finished, I sat back and stared at my screen. Done. The evidence was out of my hands and into Lucas's. Whatever happened next was beyond my control now. The next morning, everything shifted. Daniel avoided me completely, taking different hallways to dodge potential encounters. HR suddenly backed off, no more threats about performance reviews. Tiffany became overly sweet, smiling nervously whenever we passed. And Jessa Hale stopped showing up to the office entirely. Something was happening at the top. Power was shifting, and everyone sensed it. I caught glimpses of Lucas in closed-door meetings with board members, legal teams, external auditors. The investigation was real and moving fast. Marcus cornered me at lunch. "What did you do?" he whispered excitedly. Daniel looks terrified. I sipped my coffee calmly. "I just told the truth." He grinned. "You're my hero." Seriously. We've all wanted to take him down for years. That afternoon, Lucas's assistant appeared at my desk. "Mr. Hayes would like to have dinner with you. To discuss strategy." She handed me an address, an upscale restaurant downtown. My pulse quickened. This felt different from a business meeting. More personal. But I agreed. Maybe I needed personal right now. Maybe I needed to remember what it felt like to be seen as more than just a work machine. The restaurant was elegant and quiet. Lucas already sat at a corner table when I arrived. He stood, pulling out my chair, an old-fashioned gesture that surprised me. We ordered wine, made small talk about the food. Then Lucas set down his glass and looked at me seriously. You deserve that role, he said quietly. Not the director position, that role. Like it was already mine in some alternate universe. The director of strategy position. It should have been yours years ago. His eyes softened for just a moment, something almost vulnerable flickering there. Then it hardened again into that controlled intensity. I'll fix this, he said. It sounded like a promise. Like a vow. Why did my heart speed up? This was my new CEO. My boss's boss. This should feel professional, distant. Instead, it felt dangerous. Charged with something I didn't want to name. We talked for 2 hours about the company, about strategy, but also about life. About ambition and betrayal and what it costs to keep fighting when the system's rigged against you. When he walked me to my car, he paused. Arden, you're extraordinary. The way he said my name made my breath catch. Then he stepped back, professional distance returning. We should keep this appropriate, he said softly. I nodded, not trusting my voice. The board hearing was scheduled for Friday. Daniel was summoned to answer questions about performance metrics, project attribution, and personnel decisions. I wasn't required to attend, but Lucas invited me to observe from an adjoining room with a one-way window. I watched Daniel enter the boardroom, flanked by his lawyer. He looked confident at first, shoulders back, ready to defend himself. Then Lucas began. Let's start with the Reynolds account. He pulled up documents on the screen. You reported leading this strategy personally? Daniel nodded. Yes, that's correct. Lucas clicked to the next slide. Email chains. File metadata. Version histories. All showing my name, my work, my timeline. Yet every piece of evidence shows Arden Cole as the primary strategist. Can you explain that discrepancy? Daniel's confidence cracked slightly. She worked under my supervision. My guidance shaped. Your guidance. Lucas interrupted. He played an audio clip. Daniel's voice, clear as day, just format it nicely and put my name on it. Silence. Daniel's face went pale. For the next hour, Lucas dismantled every lie with surgical precision. Every claim Daniel made, Lucas countered with my evidence. Emails. Recordings. Witness statements. Financial records showing Jess's suspicious bonuses. Documentation of Tiffany's unearned promotion. Daniel started sweating. Actually sweating, dark patches appearing under his arms. His lawyer kept trying to object, but the evidence was overwhelming. Lucas pressed harder. Let's discuss your disciplinary warning against Ms. Cole. He read it aloud, the insubordination claims, the undermining leadership accusations. This was issued hours after she successfully saved a client presentation. After she delivered a contract worth millions. Can you explain why success warranted discipline? Daniel stammered. She went above her authority? Her authority? Lucas's voice was ice. She has an MBA in strategic management. 12 years of experience. She saved your presentation because your cousin couldn't. And you punished her for it. The board members exchanged glances. One of them, an older woman named Patricia, leaned forward. Daniel, this is very serious. Have you been systematically taking credit for subordinates' work? Daniel's lawyer whispered urgently to him. But Daniel's control was gone. I've been protecting this company, he suddenly shouted. Making the hard decisions. Arden wouldn't have those opportunities without me. The room went silent. Even his lawyer looked shocked. Lucas smiled, that cold, predatory smile. Thank you for that confession. Daniel realized his mistake, but too late. The damage was done. I watched from behind glass, feeling something dark and satisfying settle in my chest. Justice. Finally. After the hearing, I returned to my desk to collect my things. I was leaving early. Emotionally drained from watching Daniel's world crumble. Then he appeared. Barged into the office area, face red, eyes wild. You. He pointed at me. Everyone froze. You think you've won? You're nothing. You'll always be nothing. He slammed his hand on my desk so hard my coffee spilled. I gave you everything. This job, opportunities, mentorship. And you betray me like this? Security started moving toward us, but I held up one hand. I stood slowly, meeting his furious gaze with calm. You gave me nothing, I said quietly. I earned everything. You just stole it. His face contorted. I'll ruin you. I have connections. You'll never work in this industry again. He kept raging, threatening, his voice rising higher and higher. What Daniel didn't know. My phone had been recording in my pocket for 5 straight minutes. Every threat. Every admission. Every attempt at intimidation. Security finally reached us. Mr. Shaw, you need to leave. He shook them off violently. I'm COO. You can't touch me. Not anymore. Lucas's voice came from behind him. Daniel spun around. Lucas stood there, expression hard as stone. You're suspended pending investigation. Leave now or I'll have you arrested for assault. Daniel's suspension became termination within 48 hours. The investigation revealed more than even I'd documented. Financial irregularities, bonuses paid to Jessa from budgets Daniel controlled. Falsified performance reviews for multiple employees. Vendor contracts awarded to his friends without proper bidding. It wasn't just corruption. It was an entire system of fraud he'd built over years. HR fired Jessa immediately. She cleaned out her desk in tears, still maintaining she'd done nothing wrong. The board suspended Tiffany without pay, pending their decision about her future. She'd benefited from nepotism, but hadn't actively participated in fraud. Still, her career here was over. News outlets started sniffing around. Corruption scandal at major firm headlined several business publications. Daniel's name was dragged through the mud, deservedly so. I watched it all unfold with strange numbness. This was victory. Complete, total victory. So why didn't I feel happier? The morning of Daniel's final departure, he was escorted out of headquarters by security. He'd come to collect personal items from his office. I happened to be walking through the lobby when he emerged, carrying a box of belongings. Our eyes met across the polished floor. For a moment, I saw something in his face. Not anger. Defeat. Complete and utter defeat. Then he looked away and walked out the door. I stood there, watching him go, feeling nothing. Lucas called an emergency all-staff meeting. Everyone crammed into the largest conference room, buzzing with nervous energy. What now? More firings? Restructuring? Company-wide panic mode? Lucas stood at the front, calm and composed. I know the past weeks have been difficult, he began. But corruption doesn't define this company. Talent does. Hard work does. He clicked to a slide. We're making leadership changes based on merit, not politics. Names appeared. New directors. New managers. People who'd been overlooked for years, suddenly elevated. Then Lucas's eyes found mine in the crowd. Director of Strategic Operations, Arden Cole. My inbox exploded immediately. Messages from colleagues. From former clients. From industry contacts I hadn't heard from in years. Everyone congratulating me, asking questions, expressing shock. I sat at my desk, staring at my screen, tears streaming down my face. 12 years. 12 years of being invisible, diminished, dismissed. Ended with one email. One official announcement. I was seen now. Finally, completely seen. Marcus appeared at my desk with a cupcake topped with a tiny flag reading, Director. He set it down, grinning. Told you. You had that scary, determined look. I laughed through tears. Thanks. Jenny from accounting stopped by. I knew this day would come. You've always been the smartest person here. The weekend felt surreal. I moved through my apartment in a daze, processing everything. My phone kept buzzing with messages. But one person I hadn't heard from was Lucas. Monday morning, I arrived early to my new office. Not a cubicle anymore, an actual office with walls, a door, windows overlooking the city. Someone had already moved my belongings. My files organized neatly. My favorite coffee mug sitting on the desk. A card propped against it. You earned this. L. My throat tightened. That evening, I worked late, reviewing strategies for my new role. Most of the office had cleared out. I was locking my door when I heard footsteps. Lucas appeared, also working late. Congratulations, Director Cole, he said formally. Then his expression softened. How does it feel? I considered the question. Unreal. Like I'll wake up and it'll be gone. He stepped closer. It's not going anywhere. You built this through talent and persistence. Nobody can take that from you. We stood there in the empty hallway, the building quiet around us. Something hummed in the air between us. Then Lucas's phone buzzed. He glanced at it, sighed. I should go. Board call in 10 minutes. But he hesitated. Arden, thank you for trusting me with the truth. I nodded. Thank you for listening. Daniel made one last desperate move. He filed a lawsuit claiming I'd stolen confidential company data, that my evidence was obtained illegally, that I'd sabotaged his career through slander and defamation. His lawyer demanded my files, all my documentation, everything. We handed it over. Every single piece. My attorney smiled when she delivered the response. Please review the attached materials carefully. Because buried in my evidence was something Daniel had forgotten. Emails where he'd explicitly told me to document everything. To keep records for liability purposes. To track all projects carefully. His own instructions gave me permission to collect the evidence that destroyed him. But more damaging? Proof that Daniel had falsified signatures on multiple contracts. Forged board approvals. Created fake client testimonials. His lawsuit became the bullet that destroyed what remained of his career. Within a week, he withdrew it. His lawyer probably explained reality. If this went to trial, Daniel would face criminal charges. I received a formal apology letter from his attorney. Cold, legal, meaningless. But seeing his letterhead, his signature, that official acknowledgement of wrongdoing, that felt good. Vindication tastes cold and sharp, but satisfying. The industry blacklisted him. Nobody would hire a COO caught in such public corruption. His reputation was ash. One day, leaving work late, I found Daniel waiting outside the building. He looked terrible, disheveled, unshaven, eyes red. Security started moving toward him, but I held up my hand. It's okay. Daniel stumbled forward. Arden, please. You have to help me fix this. His voice cracked. I can't get interviews. Nobody will hire me. My wife left. I'm losing my house. He grabbed my arm desperately. You won. Okay. You won. Just help me. Tell people it was a misunderstanding. That I mentored you. Something. I looked at him. Really looked at him. This man who'd stolen 12 years of my recognition. Who'd blocked my promotions. Who'd humiliated me publicly, threatened me privately, tried to destroy my career when I dared tell the truth. I felt nothing. No sympathy. No satisfaction. Just nothing. No, I said quietly. You ruined your own life, Daniel. Every choice that led here was yours. He stared at me, disbelief crossing his face. But you gave me nothing. You took everything. And now you're experiencing consequences. That's not my responsibility to fix. Security approached. Sir, you need to leave. He looked at me one last time, something desperate and broken in his eyes. Then security escorted him to the street. I watched him go, then went home. Lucas called me into his office again. It was late afternoon, golden light streaming through those massive windows. Arden, we need to talk. My stomach dropped. What now? Was this too good to be true? Was something wrong? He gestured for me to sit, then sat beside me instead of behind his desk. More personal. His expression was serious. You're extraordinary, he said quietly. The way you handled everything. The documentation. The patience. The refusal to become bitter or cruel, even when you had every right. He paused, something vulnerable flickering across his face. I've worked with hundreds of executives. Brilliant people. But you're different. My heart hammered. Different how? You have integrity. Real integrity. Not the fake corporate kind that disappears under pressure. The kind that costs you things but you maintain anyway. He took a breath. I'm attracted to you. Very attracted to you. And I hope you feel something too. I did. God, I did. But this was complicated. You're the CEO, I said softly. He nodded. I know. Which is why we need to be careful. Transparent. Professional boundaries matter. He stood, pacing to the window. But I also believe life's too short to ignore real connections. So I'm asking, would you have dinner with me? Real dinner. Not business. I said yes. Of course I said yes. We agreed to keep it private initially, establish clear boundaries between work and personal. My new office was everything I dreamed. Glass walls. City skyline views. A team of 4 analysts reporting to me, all eager and talented. Every employee who'd once mocked me or ignored me now stared with wide eyes when I walked past. My first major leadership meeting approached. Lucas knocked softly on my office door that morning. Ready, Director Cole? I smiled, gathering my materials. Ready. We walked to the boardroom together, professional distance maintained. But as we entered, he brushed my hand briefly. Sparks everywhere. The meeting went perfectly. I presented my strategic vision for the company's next 3 years. Board members asked tough questions. I answered confidently, backed by data and experience. After, Patricia approached me privately. You know, we almost lost you. We almost let corruption drive out our best talent. Thank you for fighting back. Late that night, I left the office exhausted but satisfied. The elevator descended slowly. Then it stopped on Lucas's floor. He stepped in. We were alone. I knew within 5 minutes that you'd change this company, he said quietly. And maybe, change me too. He took my hand. Warmth spread through me. So, Director Cole, dinner tonight? I smiled, slow and victorious. Now that's a promotion worth celebrating. Justice served. Career reclaimed. Revenge executed perfectly. And maybe, just maybe, something beautiful beginning in the ashes of everything that burned down. The elevator doors opened to the parking garage. Lucas squeezed my hand once before letting go, that professional distance returning. But his eyes promised dinner held more. I walked to my car feeling lighter than I had in 12 years. The night air was cool, stars barely visible through city lights. My phone buzzed, Maya, my sister, texting congratulations again. My attorney, saying the lawsuit was officially dismissed. Marcus, sending a meme about karma. I drove home slowly, processing everything. This morning I'd been Director Arden Cole. Tonight, I was just Arden. A woman who'd fought for justice and won. A woman who'd protected her integrity even when it cost her everything. A woman who'd learned that sometimes silence is complicity, and speaking truth, no matter how terrifying, is the only path to freedom. Tomorrow, I'd be Director Cole again. Leading strategies, making decisions, proving every single day that I deserve this role. That merit mattered. That hard work wasn't supposed to be invisible. But tonight I was just Arden. And that was enough.